Colleagues and friends, well, I'm really surprised to see so many of you. As Alex said, there were lots of social engagements last night. And so I really appreciate that. And for me, it's a struggle to speak in the morning too. I'm not a morning person, so for the last 2 days, I've been really struggling. Today I have to speak on the topic Guyana's approach for a sustainable future. And I'm going to try to quickly take you through a journey that started a long time ago, because the quest for a sustainable future did not start with the discovery or the development of oil and gas. It started a long time ago. And particularly for our friends from abroad, I hope that as you get more involved in Guyana, that you would want to learn a bit about our history. And if you learn that, then you would understand why, in some ways, we act in particular manner today. So let me quickly take you back to the past. A crucial part of our sustainability in the future for Guyana is ensuring we remain a democratic state. And for many of you who come from mature democracies, you may want to know, why am I starting off with this? I should be speaking more about economic sustainability. Well, I started with this largely because we have had significant challenges in preserving democracy here and building democratic institutions. We had almost 3 decades of undemocratic rule, and in that period, we saw almost half of our population fleeing the country. And by the time democracy returned to Guyana, we were considered one of the poorest countries in the world. We were even classified by some as below Haiti in this region, Latin America and the Caribbean. So we see a direct link between democracy and development, because in the 3 decades when we had undemocratic rule, we had a significant decline, decumulation of wealth, and we lost a lot of our civil liberties, and many of our people fled the country. So we have a huge diaspora now, and that's where it started, and we lost our best minds. And in that period also, the state became so dominant in the economy, they own or control almost 80%, over 80% of all economic activities. So we lost our indigenous private sector. And when you come to a new democracy is born, and without an indigenous private sector, and you're trying to move away from state being dominant in the economic sphere, it is a difficult task. We had to rely heavily on foreign capital and incubating a local private sector. So the private sector that you meet in Guyana today is relatively new. It has had just a few decades of development. It's aggressive. We're very pleased with the way they're developing. And that is why sometimes we insist through the local content legislation and through other measures that we promote partnerships, because it's only through partnerships that our private sector will grow, the local private sector. And we rely heavily on them to take this country forward. So on the economic front, what happened? And we were in 1992 when we returned to democracy. In the 90s, Guyana, the debt was over 900% of gross domestic product, or stock of external debt. We were using for scheduled debt servicing, 153% of revenue. Just imagine that. The debt being 9 times the size of your economy and using 153% for schedule to service that debt. Today, our external debt is about 17% of GDP, down from 900%, and we're using about 6% of revenue to service debt. That is how far we have come. And to get to where we are today, and on the other hand, our balance of payment deficit was close to 50% of GDP, and the fiscal deficit about 25% of GDP. So every 2 years, we're doubling our debt with the rest of the world, and every 4 years, we're doubling our debt on the government side. And today, but how did we get here? It required a lot of fiscal discipline and hard work. And the same fiscal discipline that we have had to demonstrate in that long period to return sustainability to Guyana and to carve a conducive macroeconomic environment for private capital and also for development. The same fiscal discipline we are committed to in managing the future, including oil revenue, because we know how hard it was to get here and how quickly development can slip away from you if countries live above their means and they practice excesses. And we're committed to ensuring that oil revenue is used in a manner that is sustainable and can stimulate future growth and wealth for our people. So the journey has been a long one, and if you have the opportunity to do so, please look at 4 documents, and you will see over the span of the last maybe 20 years or so, 20, 30 years, how these documents have evolved, because they've captured our policy making towards a sustainable future. It started off with the National Development Strategy. With some international help, we worked at that. It's about maybe in 7 volumes, close to over 2,000 pages. Then we worked on a poverty reduction strategy. We have a comprehensive, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we developed a national competitiveness strategy. I saw there is a panel on competition in Guyana, but 10, 15 years ago. And then our low carbon development strategy. So as the tasks change, so too did our strategies to approach sustainability. And when climate change became a major issue, we were in the forefront of launching one of the first low carbon development strategies in the world about a decade ago. And just recently, we expanded that. We launched an expanded low carbon development strategy. It's now out for consultations. Anyone can submit, whether you're Guyanese or foreigner, your views on this. There are means to do so. You can go to the website. And we have expanded the focus from, in the past, it focused around managing our forests in a manner that brings a benefit to the world. Because as we mentioned yesterday, our forest plays a global good, but also using the proceeds from the forest, managing in that manner to stimulate a whole range of low carbon development and to help us address resilience in the future, because climate resilience is critical to a sustainable future. In any area. So I hope that you have an opportunity to read this document. It would be extremely helpful if you do so, because it will give you a perspective in the future. It focuses largely on biodiversity management, water issues, because we are a country that either is flooded We get too much water or sometimes too little water. So flood control, water management would be crucial for a sustainable future. We live mainly along the coast, which is below sea level. So climate change has almost an existential impact on us if we don't prepare our infrastructure for the future. So it focuses heavily on that. It will, the LCDS, the Low Carbon Development Strategy, would focus on how we practice logging and mining in a sustainable, low carbon impact manner. Then, of course, the document speaks about our energy mix of the future, the energy transition that was mentioned yesterday in some of the conversations we've had. It details demand for the future, for energy in the future, how we're going to meet that the demand, and what would be the mix and the opportunities too for private participation in supplying that demand. So many of you are aware that on the gas to energy project, there's an opportunity for some companies. We're in the tendering process for that. That's a huge project that shortly we'll be tendering for the solar units, almost 35 megawatts of that. And right now we're negotiating a power purchase agreement for power from the hydro. But that would be detailed here. That's crucial on the sustainability side too. So it is the LCDS, and then let me pivot back to the use of funds from the oil and gas sector. We believe that the funds must be used in a manner transparently. We outlined some of the steps that we have taken through the Natural Resources Fund Act to ensure that the resources are transparently used and accounted for, but they must have a particular focus in Guyana. The focus has to be on infrastructure and incentives to stimulate growth in the non-oil economy. We're committed to ensuring that the Dutch disease doesn't destroy the other sectors of our economy, that we don't spend in that manner. And even although we just passed the first budget using oil money, we have not used a cent of oil resources as yet. But the first budget focused on spending on the capital budget mainly. We kept a tight constraint on the recurrent budget because we've seen how countries that receive windfall, they splurge on the current budget, and then when the windfall goes, they can't sustain it. And we're committed to that. So you're going to see the oil revenue going towards increasing welfare, being spent on getting a world-class education to all of our people, improving their access and the quality of healthcare for Guyanese, because we believe that's sustainable spending, building out the infrastructure for a modern economy and to stimulate non-oil growth, so for agriculture and the hospitality sector and the ICT sector, which are more low impact, carbon impact sectors, but they're crucial to that future. This is important for us as we move forward. And then in a country like ours, as you know, we've had our challenges, a lot of it from abroad, but for us, the ultimate test of sustainability is how we ensure that all of our citizens benefit. Regardless of their geography, their race, their religion, that's the ultimate test. That all of our people have to share the benefits of the oil and gas industry, but more importantly, the changes taking place in Guyana. And that is our approach in a nutshell the sustainability. We're not going to get caught up with international prescriptive goals about sustainability, because we've seen so many of those come and go. Or the Millennium Development Goals, reaching some net zero, and often I say prescriptive because many of although the goals are set in an international environment, often without the developing world at the table, the policies and the financial support to achieve those goals are often lacking. In fact, global policies lead to us not achieving some of the goals, or we're counter to achieving the goals. And let me give you a couple of examples so we don't talk in abstract. So you know, the Millennium Development Goals were set, and then simultaneously at the WTO, the developed world started pushing for full reciprocity. Mia Motley spoke about the special and differential treatment that we have enjoyed for almost 70 years since GATT was established and then got transformed into the WTO. Because in that period, they recognized that small countries could never compete with the developed world on the same basis. In St. Kitts and Nevis, the entire population can fit in a building that works, a single building in New York, the people who work in a single building. So how can you compete on the same footing as the United States of America in world trade? Yet there was a move to full reciprocity, pushing the world to full reciprocity. That led to the destruction of many sectors. The banana industry in the Caribbean, because it was enjoying some preferences from the European Union, got practically wiped out. The sugar sector here in Guyana saw a loss of about $40 million in one single move in terms of markets. So often the international goals are not aligned with policies practiced at a global level. And so too in the climate debate. At the beginning, it was in Kyoto Protocol, it was based on your capacity, so special and differential. Now it's burden sharing. So the poor countries of the world have to almost take the same burden sharing as the rich countries in achieving climate goal. Yet, although they never were the ones that contributed to the historic levels of emission and current concentration of greenhouse gases. So we're not going to get into that debate. We believe we have a global obligation to. We play our part on climate change. We play our part in moving the world forward. But in a very practical, simple way, we want a future for our people, and these are the key elements of the future. Rigid fiscal discipline, and not focus on what is good for people and their welfare, education, health, ensuring that the money is not wasted, oil money is not wasted, and that it goes towards stimulating a non-oil sector, enhancing our democratic institutions, fighting aggressively to ensure that the prevailing condition in Guyana will always be one of democracy, and we're very grateful for international partners. Just in the last elections, those of you who followed, once again democracy was challenged. And for 5 months after the elections, we didn't have a result, and it was only with the help of the international community we managed to prevail. And that cannot happen cyclically in every 5 years if we're going to have that sustainable future. Everyone in this country, all the political parties have to commit to free and fair elections. That's important for us, for that future. So we have a lot of work to do on that front, ensuring that our civil liberties are protected, ensuring the benefits flow to all of our people. This is how we see Guyana evolving in a sustainable manner. Thank you very much.